Hello team and welcome back to another Line War cast. We have a 1v1 today between El Mexican in blue and Kartoffelman in red. Mexican's going to spawn in the north part of this map. It's a good mix of water and land here. There's a trade route in the center indicated by this dotted line. If either player could get a town and a port on both sides of this dotted line, they would be able to get a trade route set up, which is a lot of economy. Kartoffelman is in the bottom right, going for 2 barracks immediately to start producing infantry. 3 farms as well for red as the opener, and a quick factory after that. And an airport is the opener for red. Blue in the north, going for a town and a farm immediately. A barracks producing commandos, and an airport right beside it. Second barracks as well. With commandos out of this barracks, we're probably going to see commando drops in this game. And Mexican does switch it up and starts building this transport jet. So the commandos are going to load into this thing and be able to parachute out somewhere on the map to start capping and doing their thing. Third barracks for blue. And neither player is going to know where the other one is at this point. This is the vision that Mexican gets. If blue can't see red, red can't see blue. Normal fog of war stuff and a factory follow-up from Mexican. Both players might have an idea of where the other one spawned because of that picking phase we saw at the beginning of the game. If you'd like to learn more about like the picking phase and how that works, you can check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/@SodaQuackers, for more casts, some guides, and more importantly, check out the Line War Discord, where you can talk to folks who play the game. You can look for matches there, learn more about it, come hang out, come say hello. Get in on this great game. Transport plane for blue is nearly done. Once there's 2 commandos, this plane will load up and drop somewhere. Not really sure exactly where Mexican's going to drop this at the moment. And a second factory now for Kartoffelman as the follow-up. Compared to a team game, in general, unless the spawns are really close in a 1v1, both players have some time to think about what they'd like to do, how they'd like to proceed in the game. As someone who plays this game as well, and mostly 1v1, I enjoy this time of the map, like this time of the game. Might be a little bit slower, but when you play it, you'll learn to appreciate this moment in the game. Airports for red, building a helicopter at the moment. And here we go. First transport plane is taking off. Second factory for Mexican. And the transport plane is going to drop over here on the left-hand side. If we zoom out, a lot of economy on the left-hand side of the map here. And also, Mexican from the picking phase might think that Kartoffelman could be over on the left-hand side. These commandos are going to do a great job to scout that and realize that they aren't. This refinery for blue getting set up. Planes, of course, are an energy consuming unit, so they'll need that energy in order to do their thing. And there we go. Commandos on the left-hand side of the map, starting to cap for blue. And a second transport plane for Mexican on the way. Generally, we see players go for 1 or 2 transport planes and then switch into some other type of air unit. We can see this move command, that's the helicopter is the receiver, which probably indicates that blue is likely going to build a helicopter next, and that's exactly what happens. And very slowly, Mexican's moving through this forest, and both players are going to likely meet in the middle in this choke. And that's when they will finally see each other. First helicopter is done for Kartoffelman, and the second one on the way. And a third factory for red as well. We can check the economies, which is very important. 467 for blue and 466 for red, so pretty much as even as you can possibly ask for. And it's this combination of 3 farms for red and then the town and 1 farm for blue. It's kind of evening that out. There's multiple ways to gain income in a game of Line War, this money, which first and foremost is by capturing territory, putting it under your control, and then after that, building these special sites, which include these farms, lumber sites, towns, which you can upgrade into cities. In certain situations, this is a city site with these 4 berry bushes. You have to build all of the industry that connects to this town before you can build a city off of it. We'll likely see that come into play this game, hopefully. And here come these two transport planes now for Mohican, which are dropping down here. Kartoffelman's vision, neither player still can see the other one. Second helicopter part of me is now done for Kartoffel, and a third helicopter on the way. And commandos are stealth when they land, but when they're parachuting, they're not, so Kartoffel will likely be able to see this transport plane and hear these parachutes. And there we go, commandos are now on the ground. This is Kartoffel's vision, so they can't see the commandos as of yet. When there's more red units that show up and group up here, they'll get the visibility. And there, that first one pops into vision. Mohican gonna start landing more commandos in pretty much the same spot as indicated by that line. I guess it's now this line, Mohican deciding to go for a different LZ. And great job by Kartoffel to try to track down these commandos. It's a little bit difficult because the commandos have that stealth characteristic. We'll see if Mohican can get these commandos loose close to Kartoffelman's base. It's 3 SAMs as a follow-up for red. And here come the helicopters about to get in the fight. At this point, both players see each other, which give them a decent idea of where both of them have spawned. And this choke, this little isthmus maybe is the geographic term. Potentially, anyone who's into geography can, you know, feel free to correct me. Maybe I just exposed my ignorance. But this is going to be very important. Who wins this? How long it takes? How well they trade while trying to push through here. 2 helicopters take out that artillery piece relatively quick. The first blue SAM is on its way to try to deal with these helicopters. We're going to get a little bit of a helicopter versus helicopter fight. None of the helicopters will die at this point. And blue is the first one to get a SAM here. The 3 SAMs for red are now completed, and they are moving up towards this choke. They're a receiver on this command, so they'll proc to this and then start moving up. And 4 more commandos land for Mohican. Income-wise, 628 for red, 609 for blue. Helicopter takes a SAM hit, but gets out of here. And it's more helicopters for blue, also going for some more industry with these 2 farms. 2 red helicopters are going to start engaging this 1 SAM. The blue infantry can shoot at the helicopters. Good positioning by Mohican here to use this move command to get the infantry in position to destroy that helicopter. And the blue helicopters slowly chipping away at this defensive line of artillery pieces. Actually get one, which is replaced by another red artillery piece. And great defensive line by Kartoffelman. Very strong position to hold in that choke. Blue continuing to go for commando drops. There's now 6 commandos over here. On the left-hand side, the first 4 commandos, there's 2 of them left. So Kartoffelman was able to destroy two blue commandos. Commandos are still chilling. The first refinery for red is on the way. This black plume of smoke we see coming off the helicopter indicates that they are out of energy, so they can't move. This one can't take off even if it wanted to. And now red has 1 of the SAMs involved in the fight, 2 more moving up slowly. 1 blue helicopter goes down. And the second one will likely get out of here. The artillery pieces can also shoot up in the air. They don't do that much damage to helicopters or planes in general, but they occasionally will see an artillery piece last shot a helicopter. And it's wonderful. Barracks now for Mohican. There's 2 of them on the left-hand side of the map, which is really good for blue. Red's group of commandos and infantry are going to try to meet this army. And this is the vision that commandos grant. Two commandos, pretty decent vision that they get. They're going to move into this forest. And now both players are getting a decent number of SAMs over here. There's 2 more on the way for Mohican, who continues to go for these commando drops off the airport. And 3 SAMs for Kartoffel. It's a mix of SAMs and artillery for red coming out of these 3 factories. And Kartoffel's got another town on the way, which is great for their economy. In fact, Kartoffel already has another town on the top right. And using this barracks as a thing to start producing a garrison on these different, like on the town and on the farm, so that Mohican can't just snipe that. The commandos likely wouldn't be able to drop this far. The range of the transport planes wouldn't be that great. But it looks like Mohican actually wants to go for a little bit of push, just running into this defensive line. There's a lot of infantry for blue here, which might be enough to do some damage. Helicopters and some red infantry taking on all these commandos. We can see Kartoffelman's vision, so there's enough helicopters around to actually see all these commandos and negate that stealth bonus. Infantry is now on top of the artillery in the defensive line, but there's a lot of red artillery pieces, which do quite well against the infantry here. But if blue can dislodge this position, it's super good. We'll likely see Mohican back off in a second, because this fight isn't going super well for them. 2 more barracks in this forest for Mohican, and still a mix of SAM's artillery for blue. And now the first helicopters are landing on this blue-controlled territory, which is huge because it gives these helicopters kind of a launching off point. Great snipe from Mohican with these 2 commandos. They were in the right place at the right time to destroy that town that Kartoffel was building. But they will also get the airport, which is a relatively big setback for Kartoffel. At the very least, it's a frustrating sequence of events, losing a town and an airport. This is Kartoffel's view, so there's a stealth bonus that you get by building your buildings in mountains. So this blue barracks is not seen as of yet. Mohican's starting to build this town on this one end of the trade route. And both players still building helicopters out of their airports. So far, Kartoffel's still defending here. A good amount of artillery for blue is shelling at these positions. Once the red artillery is in the entrenchments, they actually have a defensive buff against artillery shells that are incoming. But enough blue artillery and enough time, they'll be able to get through that. And we have to keep looking at the economies. 929 for red and 875 for blue, so relatively close. Both players have a decent amount of helicopters at this little junction. And with the 4 SAMs from blue, it'll be difficult for Kartoffelman to send the helicopters up to help support these red artillery pieces that are in the entrenchments. 4 SAMs, or 4 helicopters, pardon me, probably can take on 4 SAMs, but they have to start firing all at once. And the losses would still be relatively heavy for red. And these blue commandos for Mohican are still on the loose. This is the vision Mohican gets. Refineries get negative stealth. So the blue commandos can already see this. There's actually not that much of a garrison for red on this refinery, so there's an opportunity for Mohican to actually snipe this, and this looks like what the plan is. Kartoffel doing a good job to keep building economy. There's a third town now on the way in the bottom right. And on the left-hand side, Mohican, with these, what's going to be 5 barracks, is able to stuff that first red army from getting a foothold in these mountains. Kartoffel goes for 3 more barracks in this mountain range. So kind of matching the production that blue has. Blue will have 1 more barracks, though. In total. 5 of them up here, only 4 for red. And Kartoffel backs up to this part of the choke. And a combination of SAMs and artillery pieces digging in. And the transport plane's still going. Still landing more reinforcing commandos at this foothold that Mexican's got. We'll see if Blue decides to build a structure here, like a factory or a barracks or something on this side. Great defense from Kartoffel with these helicopters. And a factory now for Kartoffel in this mountain range to deal with the left-hand side of the map. If we go top down, this is what both players have capped. So relatively even on the number of territories that they both have. Eco-wise, 990 for Blue and 1074 for Red, who is out of gas. That's what that beep beep sound is. A second refinery for Kartoffel, and the reason that the gas went out is because these commandos actually were able to snipe the refinery. So these commandos getting huge value. They destroyed a town, an airport, and a refinery at this point. Kartoffel has to build this second refinery relatively close to Mexican's base. And this is Mexican's vision, so it is within, like, Mexican can see this in the fog of war at the moment. And more artillery pieces from Red. It's a very good defensive position that Kartoffel has in this mountain range. It'll be difficult for Blue to actually push through this. And vice versa, really. I mean, it's going to be tough for Red to actually push through this mountain range, especially if Mexican were to dig in, if there was pressure. And here comes Mexican doing a maneuver, moving these helicopters over to this choke. I would suspect that these helicopters are being moved over here so that they can reach this refinery. A big strength of helicopters is that they can land anywhere on the map that you have control over that territory. They don't have to go back home to an airport like every other plane. So Mexican's going to move them here. And then we'll see how quickly they launch either to the refinery, maybe moving in on Kartoffelman's main base to try to snipe a building or two. Target command of the helicopters on that refinery. And they will be able to take it out. A great way to disrupt your opponent's momentum and tempo is by making sure that they don't have any energy. Constantly trying to snipe their energy sources. 5 helicopters is certainly enough to do this. And we can see the DPS of helicopters when they're hovering and nothing shooting at them. Very quickly dispatch that. We have a dock on the way now for Mexican, which could come in clutch. Could be cruisers, which are great at destroying land units. It could be missile boats that start dealing with these helicopters potentially. Really anything is in play. Second refinery, Kartoffelman is rebuilding that one that just got sniped. And the 2 commandos for Blue starting to work on this town in the bottom right, which there's a port on the way. If the town is destroyed, the port will also be destroyed. It's like kind of enough Red infantry to deal with this, but unfortunately for Red, some of the infantry is a little bit north and not going to be there in time. We'll try to keep it in picture in the bottom right to see if it actually does go down that town. And if it does, we have all the casts that I've done. That'll be the most value that commandos have got. Like 2 single commandos. Got a town, an airport, a refinery, and unfortunately not quite. Another town and port. Great defense from Kartoffelman. That's huge, keeping this eco alive. Second refinery is now done for Red to be able to keep flying these helicopters. And these 4 commandos for Red have actually started to cap back this territory that Mexican had secured. Big infantry fight. It's Sam's out of this factory in the mountain range for Kartoffel at this point. And very slowly with the defender's advantage, and certainly the helicopters, if they get here, Kartoffel's going to be able to push this back. We now hear the beep beep from Mexican, who's running into the energy problems. Second refinery now for Blue in the north of the picture. And there's no SAMs here for Blue as of yet. We'll see if Mexican decides to put down a factory or something. Because if these helicopters for Red just decide to stay here, they'll be able to get tremendous value. against all this blue infantry. So it actually is a transport boat for Mohican, which is a great call to just kind of circumvent this defensive line, this choke that Red's dug in on. Pretty good reaction time from Kartoffel, who can see this happening, sees that this territory is starting to get uncapped. 4 helicopters will show up. There's more helicopters on the way for Red. A second airport for Blue, also going for more helicopters. And more barracks for Blue on the left-hand side of the map. If we go top down, Mohican definitely getting more of a foothold on the left-hand side. Probably will be able to cap more territory overall than Red is able to. That's not the end of the story, because Red might actually have more economy sites that they could build. Mohican trying to snipe this one town on the far right side. It's 3 helicopters. I don't believe we'll be able to destroy this in the first run. They'll have to come back. Yes, they don't quite get it. 4 helicopters would have been able to do it. 3 not quite. And this one SAM for Blue might actually be able to destroy this helicopter. And it does. So very nice pickup from Mohican. This is unfortunately getting stuffed for Blue at this point, with all this reinforcing Red artillery. And a cruiser now for Mohican out of this dock. And the cruiser will be big in that it'll be able to just pull up to the coast and start shelling all these units. It could even come down here and start attacking this defensive line and start chipping away at that. Great job by Kartoffel to finally take back both of these territories. And a very fierce fight on the left-hand side of the map. Income-wise, 1312 for Red, 1160 for Blue. Kartoffel's sitting on a little bit of money at the moment, building a depot to start storing some of the energy that this refinery is building. The helicopters, when they come back the second time, are able to destroy that town, which will put Mohican on better footing economically. We probably can see that it has changed already. 1160 income for Blue, and now 1297 instead of 13 whatever it was for Red. There's some SAMs dug in right beside this town, which is great for Blue to stop any of these Red helicopters if they decide to try to jump over the water to try to snipe the town. They won't be able to do so. At least they won't be able to do that as easily. And great defense by these helicopters sniping that transport boat. Blue is not going to give up here and will continue trying to send units across. Kartoffel dealing with a little bit of energy problems at the moment, because this refinery was destroyed. And Mohican started to move more helicopters over to the left-hand side, using this sequence of move commands with the helicopters as the receivers. So Blue about to have the helicopter advantage on the left-hand side, but thankfully for Kartoffel, they've been building SAMs out of this factory, so there will be 5 of them, which is a decent amount. Definitely something Mohican's going to have to take into consideration. And here comes another transport boat that, unfortunately for all these Blue units, is probably going to land right into a bunch of Red already deployed artillery. The cruisers is going to have to get out of here. 4 helicopters could destroy it relatively quickly. And they do. The SAMs weren't really close enough to help defend that. And even if they were, I mean, that many helicopters probably going to be able to destroy the cruiser pretty quick. 1 Red helicopter gets taken out. A second one will as well. And another thing we're probably going to see potentially at some point is a rocket from either player to try to deal with all the units grouped up in this choke. Income-wise, 1190 for Blue, 1329 for Red. Kartoffel still with the edge. A lot of helicopters for Mohican moving from the left-hand side to start attacking all this artillery, which should open up a lane for all these commandos for Blue to push inland. But the only thing, like, all the units for red that are moving out of here are all the production facilities. So it's not like there's gonna be a lot of units for red that are moving to try to defend this. There's no SAMs at the moment, which is tough. So these helicopters get free reign for as long as they are here. There's no interceptors for either player either. Interceptors are the pound for pound king in the skies of dealing with other air units. And another dock for Mohican on the left-hand side with the destroyer starting to cap some of this water territory. Red helicopters taking on this blue infantry. You see the blue infantry shooting up at the helicopters. They might be able to destroy one of the helicopters. It'll be close, but this is pretty expensive for blue. Two good fights going on at the moment. On the bottom left, and then the middle of the picture. Mohican's got a lot of stuff building up in this choke. A lot of infantry as well. Is the play for blue to actually push through here? It looks like that is the plan. Mohican's gonna go for it. Kartoffel's rebuilding this town on the right-hand side. Mohican at this point is just gonna sit on these transport boats for a little bit, instead of trying to send more units through. And this is a little bit of a moment of truth for blue. There's a lot of helicopters that could get involved in this fight. They'd have to take on these 5 SAMs as well, which would be tough. And 2 lines deep of artillery that's already dug in. Very tough thing to break if you're blue. Okay, so 2 interceptors now for Kartoffel. Great response, I think, to start dealing with these helicopters. And on the left-hand side, still anyone's fight here. The one advantage that red has is that they have this factory and a second factory showing up now. So more heavy machinery for red on the left-hand side. Mohican still hasn't yet built a factory there. Combination of helicopters and interceptors engaging these blue helicopters is a 3rd interceptor getting in on the mix here. And very slowly Mohican is breaking this defensive line. They're through the first line of defense. But there's not as many reinforcements to do the final little bit to break it fully. 5 SAMs for Kartoffel, starting to haste move into position because the helicopters are doing a tremendous job in destroying a bunch of these artillery pieces. And now the red SAMs are on site. They'll get one of the helicopters. They'll probably get at least 2 more, especially since the helicopters fly this way. Tough move by those pilots. But Mohican has successfully dislodged this defensive position. A rocket now on the way for Kartoffel being built in this mountain range. The rocket range would definitely be able to deal with any units here, potentially on the left-hand side as well, if blue started pushing too much. Missile boat for blue takes out one of the helicopters before getting dispatched. There's another missile boat for Mohican making its way into this little bay. And it's more missile boats out of this blue dock. Kartoffel still hasn't been able to rebuild this refinery, and Mohican's starting to do a landing with these 2 transport boats that we saw earlier in the north off of these 2 barracks. Really strong move, I think, from Mohican, who's really pushing on 3 fronts. I mean, on the left-hand side, Mohican's not as much pushing as just in a fight. That dot of SAMs for red, very important. They get taken out. There was enough helicopters for blue to be able to do that. And once these SAMs for blue get in position, they're going to pretty much negate these red interceptors. Interceptors, of course, not the best against SAMs, to say the least. Another factory and barracks for Kartoffel on the left-hand side, which is very important. If we go top-down, whoever wins or loses the left-hand side, I think, has a huge advantage in this game. 1429 income for red, 1290 for blue. One of the interceptors gets taken out. Another red helicopter will get destroyed as well. There's a large amount of red artillery here, though. So it'll be tough for Mohican to win this fight. And power plants for Kartoffel to kind of help out with the energy problem. They clearly don't want to rebuild this refinery. There's a city already built for red, which is huge for the economy. And likely the reason that Kartoffel is ahead at the moment. But on the left-hand side, it's going pretty well for red. 2 missile boats in decent position for Mohican. And the rocket is 1/3 of the way done. Kartoffel spending more money, putting down more factories, and building some more SAMs out of these existing factories. There's now nearly a full airport full of interceptors that are done for red. And the SAMs can use their missiles against landed helicopters, and that's what we're seeing. They'll take out both of these red helicopters. And now that there's no SAM coverage, this is starting to look a little bit tough for Kartoffel. Importantly because blue would be so close to red's base. I think that was still very close. In my humble opinion, I think that was very close. We'll see what the income's like. Yeah, so Kartoffel's ahead. I don't actually know who left that game and who won. But importantly, it doesn't matter because it was a great game. Well played by both. Win or lose, we're playing Line War. As mentioned before, if you'd like to learn more about the game, you can check out the Line War Discord. You can look for matches in the Discord. You can ask questions, come say hi, whatever. Twitch.tv/SodaQuackers. When I'm streaming, playing the game. Otherwise, folks, I hope you have a wonderful night, day, evening, whatever it is for you, wherever you are. We will see you around. Good luck, have fun. Peace.